in the light of the fact that my video telecasting was interrupted due to certain technical errors on the part of Facebook, I crave leave to continue. It is sometimes the case, perhaps it was the will of the Almighty, maybe it was my error, to switch on a live telecasting program on Shabbat. But I crave the pardon of the Almighty, hoping that my telecasting would be to His greater glory. As I initially began by greeting everyone on the Shabbat, and I greet once again by saying Shabbat Shalom, and Chag Shamir, as also the week of Shakat has begun, I crave also leave to highlight the fact that this is a very special day for those of us who believe in freedom. As the Almighty led His people out of Egypt and brought them into the wilderness, even to reside in tents, and thus He commanded us to remember this week of Shakat. There was a man born in my country about 150 years ago approximately, precisely on October the 2nd of the year 1859, or maybe wrong, 69. This was none other than Mahatma Gandhi, who, like the people of Egypt, also dreamed that his people would be, his people, I mean his countrymen and women, would be liberated from foreign roots. He did not campaign in order to underline or even encourage violence by any means. On the contrary, he campaigned, and his campaign was known as non-violent movement, or ahimsa, we call it in Bengali, or ahimsa, as some people would like to say. He was a very learned person. He was called by one of the bars of England, was recognized as a member of the bar. He went to South Africa and was evicted from a first-class compartment on the ground that he himself was not a so-called white man, but as in those days they were called colored people, or one of those colored people, or he was a non-white person traveling on a first-class compartment in South Africa. Having spent a very painful night on the platform of the station, he began campaigning for freedom for all those who were being oppressed, who were being tyrannized, who were being detained unjustly, who had to work against their free will. And returning to India, he began to do the same until he achieved his goal. That is, until he achieved his goal in ensuring that India was liberated from the British rule. On the 15th of August of the year 1947, Gregorian year, I mean, even though he himself was assassinated shortly thereafter by a certain fanatic conspired by other fanatics. This is indeed his birthday, but he also had the dream that every fellow countryman and woman of his country would be on equal footing. He himself came from a considerably modest family, but proved that birth of modesty does not hinder a person from becoming great. I do not mean great in a financial sense or in earthly matters or in material sense. I mean great in humanity. He recognized the fact that honesty was greater than flattery. Humility was greater than something that would only shine to be or appear to be great. He recognized that humanity was much greater than wealth. He led a very modest life. He himself was in prison time and time again, but he never, ever, in his entire life, advocated any violence. He took over many, many, many wonderful teachings from the Torah and indeed from the whole Bible the Bible as a whole, both from the Old Testament as well as the New Testament. He reiterated that wonderful verse taught by Jesus Christ, that if someone slaps on your one cheek, offer to him the other also. He himself never ever raised his hand against any person unlawfully. Even when he was in rage, he controlled it. He showed that temper is evil, and indeed, temper, bad temper, brings to one's destruction only. He himself showed how wonderful it could be to lead a modest life in helping others. To serve others does not make, and in his view did not make, one less important or less valuable in the world. On the contrary, through service towards others, towards the needy, whether they are needy in material sense or they are in need of justice and equity, I mean natural justice and equity, whether they are victimized by others, coming to their aid is decisive. His dream of freedom is shared by millions of others in the world even today. Not merely being liberated from a foreign rule or foreign regime, even being liberated as human beings. While I'm addressing to you even on the Shabbat, contrary to my general customs, live, tens of thousands of people are being endangered. People, young people, even babies and children are being trafficked from one place to another as pure objects of unpardonable offenses. They are being sold as slaves, even illegally, of course. The great dreams dreamt by the late father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, whom I prefer to call Bapuji, is dreamed today by tens of millions of people. But my most beloved, dear and respected friends, it becomes our duty, indeed, moral duty, if not a legal one, to come forward to their aid. And I therefore beg you, someone who believes in that wonderful grace of the Almighty liberating his people in Egypt and bringing them to reside in tents. And someone who created that man, Mahatma Gandhi, who created you, my most beloved, dear and respected friends, and me, your humble servant. And those victims throughout the world who are being trafficked, sold as slaves, oppressed and victimized, abused by various kinds, even exposed to immorality, who need our help even today, to come forward and help them, so that we, like the liberated people coming out of Egypt, the people who celebrated here Indian independence on the 15th of August of the year 1947, and those people who celebrate when they're liberated, those victims may also celebrate with us our life. And I am saying this in singular because I hope you will join me in my campaign of this liberation. Our life is a short one, but it is long enough to do something good. We may not live long on this earth, but our deeds are likely to bring good fruit, which are likely to flourish and long, very, very long, and last very, very long. I thank you for listening to me. I would say again, once again, Shalom, Hashemir, and in Indian language, Jai Hind. May the Almighty bless you this evening, throughout this week of Shakat, and all the days to come. And please come forward, I beg you, to help the victims who need our help so desperately. Thank you once again, and God bless. Good night from my country.